So in my last speedrun video, I decided to do all the Regis due to popular request. Last time I did Regirock, and this time I'm doing Regice, and today we're going to be figuring out how fast can I beat Pokemon Emerald with only a Regice. Once again, the title is how fast can I beat this game because we all know it's possible with a legendary Pokemon. Jirachi had a time of 14 hours and 10 minutes, and Regirock completed the game in 16 hours and 35 minutes, so we're going to try to beat both of those times today. Before we actually get into the video, there's a few rules we have to go over. Rule number 1 is no using other Pokemon in battle besides Regice. Other HM Pokemon will have to be caught, but they will not be used in battle. Rule number 2 is no using items in battle or using held items. Normally, the third rule would be no hacking or cheating of any kind besides getting Regice at the beginning, but you'll see why that isn't possible, just like my Regirock run. And before we get into the video, guys, if you do enjoy this video, please don't forget to subscribe because only a small percentage of people are actually subscribed. Like Dream says, it's free and you could always undo it anytime you'd like. Let's get into the video. So like always, we're greeted with Professor Birch running away from a level 2 Zigzagoon with a legendary Pokemon literally in his bag right next to him. Mudkip, of course. I guess Regice is okay too. So just like my Regirock video, Regice only knows Explosion to start off with. Luckily in this battle, even if it's a draw, the game still thinks we've won, so it progresses like normal. The problem going onward from this point is that we're not able to actually catch any Pokemon until we beat May, and I can't obviously level up only using Explosion. So literally the only way to get past the beginning of this game is to hack in a few rare candies until we learn an actual attacking move. I go ahead and give Regice the best nickname I could think of, and then I hack in the rare candies to get Regice to level 9. At level 9, Regice learns Icy Wind, which isn't the best move, but obviously something we could level up with, and since Regice's special attack isn't too shabby either, it will be dealing some damage as soon as we get to a higher level. The first battle with May is obviously a joke. This is the first time she's ever battled anyone, and she's against a level 9 Regice when she only has a level 5 Torchic, so I think that's pretty funny. I then go help Wally catch his very first Pokemon, a Ralts at level 5, and now I have to take on the Team Aqua Grunt inside of Petalburg Forest. At this point, the Grunt only has a level 9 Poochyena, and Regice is at level 10 now, so I'm easily able to one-shot it with an Icy Wind. Also, the first gym is obviously a Rock-type gym leader, so it should be relatively easy. Roxanne leads off with a level 12 Geodude, and I end up going for an Icy Wind here to take it out. Next up is another Geodude at level 12, who obviously goes down to an Icy Wind as well, but next up is Nosepass, who actually causes us a problem. Nosepass is able to tank an Icy Wind pretty good. I use Icy Wind a few times here. Nosepass just absolutely tanks it and returns with a Rock Tomb to do a ton of damage to us. Like, I literally end up losing here to a Nosepass when I have a Regice, so I just think that's pretty funny. A few attempts later, I do end up getting luckier. Not only does Nosepass have the ability to take Icy Winds pretty well, Roxanne has potions and she uses them all on Nosepass, which got super annoying. But eventually, with a combination of luck and more luck, I end up beating Nosepass. Honestly, I can't believe I'm struggling against Roxanne. I have a move which is super effective against their Pokemon, and I'm still taking a few attempts to beat her. It might be the fact that Icy Wind's just a bad move. We're definitely going to go pick up Ice Beam as soon as we can. And once again, I have to beat this Team Aqua Grunt so I can give Pico back to Mr. Briny, so Mr. Briny will take us to Dewford Town where we'll find our second gym leader. By the way, we are around 40 minutes in-game time, so overall, it's not too bad so far. I also have to catch a HM Slave, so I end up picking up a Zigzagoon and then get HM Boy like always. I know we're going to have some issues with the Brawly because he is a fighting type gym leader, so I decided to go get the letter to Steven first just to get a few levels in the cavern. I tried Brawly a few times, but at level 22, I finally get the lucky run I needed. I'm able to take down Machop with a couple of Icy Winds, and the same thing happens to Meditite, and next up is Makuhita, and I get a critical hit with Icy Wind, and luckily that's enough to take it out. Without the critical hit, it wouldn't be possible, so yes, this did take a while to do. I then head to Slateport City and have to take on a couple Team Aqua Grunts, which are always relatively easy, especially with legendary Pokemon, and then Archie comes and yells at us, but then disappears, and we won't be seeing him for a while. Our in-game time right now is 2 hours and 50 minutes, and now we have to take on May, which can be an issue because of her Combuskin. Luckily, we are able to outpower her Combuskin and take it out with 24 HP left, as I use another Icy Wind on Lombre here, doing a lot of damage as it hits me with an Astonish. Obviously, it's not enough to kill me, and I finish it off with one more Icy Wind. And now that we've taken down May, we do have to do Watson next. Now, Watson is an extremely hard opponent. Even though we do learn Superpower here, I don't think it's going to be enough because Regice's attack is absolutely terrible. We are at 3 hours and 8 minutes right before we take on Watson, and we're at level 26 now. I just decided to give it a shot, even though I really have no idea how it's going to go. Surprisingly enough, Watson's first two Pokemon go down relatively easy with Icy Wind, and Magneton goes down with only 2 superpowers. I'm obviously not going to go for more superpowers because my attack would be even lower, but I get super lucky here, and I end up taking down Manectric with a critical Icy Wind to win, and I only was left with 2 HP. This was literally my first attempt, and I honestly was just trying it at level 26 just to scout out how close I was to actually beating him, but no, I somehow defeated Watson first try, and I'm definitely not complaining. But now that Watson's taken care of, I decided to go to the Rock Smash guy and teach Rock Smash to Zigzagoon so I could access the next part of the game. After a ton of trainer battles, eventually I arrive at Mount Chimney, where Team Red and Team Blue decide to fight, and eventually Team Red runs away, and we have to go stop them at the top of Mount Chimney. Once again, I'm not sure how this is gonna go. Once I arrive at Maxie, I have access to Curse now, which is definitely gonna be helpful. I don't get intimidated because of my ability from Mightyena, which is also gonna help out a little bit, but I decided to go for a Curse here so I could go for a Superpower on Mightyena. I could have went for Superpower without setting up the Curse, but I didn't want to deal with the decreased defense and attack. Next up is Camerupt at level 25, and I accidentally misclick here and go for another Superpower, so that's just fantastic, as I decided to go for another Icy Wind. Luckily, it is a critical hit, and it gets taken out, and last up is Zubat, who obviously goes down to one Icy Wind. I defeated Watson first try, and now I defeated Maxie first try, so Regice is definitely ahead of schedule. Absolutely no grinding has been done so far. By the way, guys, if you are enjoying this video, make sure to hit the like button below, because I will be releasing a brand new video every week, every time the like goal of 1,000 likes is hit. But after that relatively easy victory with Maxie, next up is Flannery, the Fire-type gym leader, and because Maxie went so well, I'm pretty sure that Regice is able to hold his own against Flannery too, but we're about to find out. I arrive at Flannery only one more level than I was with Maxie at level 33. I decided to go for an Icy Wind on Numel here, and it does do a lot of damage as I get hit with a magnitude 6, not doing too much at all, and I go for another Icy Wind, almost taking it out, and then I go for one more to take it out. Next up is a level 26 Camerupt, and I end up going for an Agent Power here, but I forget that Regice's attack is absolutely awful, and I figure out the Icy Wind actually does more than Agent Power, which is kind of funny, and eventually I end up taking down Camerupt as well. Next out is Slugma at level 24, and I decided to go for an Agent Power even though it is awful because it is super effective and luckily is enough to take it out. And last up is a Torkoal at level 29 who takes a superpower pretty well and hits me with an overheat. And unfortunately Torkoal is able to take me out with a body slam here, but we got pretty close. A few attempts later, eventually I arrive at Torkoal once again and decide to set up a curse so my attack raises, and I go for an Agent Power here just to make sure it does more damage, and I am able to take it out only after 3 Agent Powers. This battle did take a few attempts, but because we were resetting, none of that counted towards our time, and our in-game time is still looking pretty good. In-game time is at 4 hours and 45 minutes, so yeah, we are ahead of schedule. Next up is Norman though, let's see if anything changes. Norman definitely did take a few attempts here, but eventually I did find a strategy where I was able to beat him at my current level. I take down Spinda with a couple of Icy Winds, and next up is Slacking at level 31, who is definitely a powerhouse, but I decided to set up a few curses here to raise my defense and attack. Now that my attack is increased, I know I'm going to be able to one-shot Slacking with a superpower, even though it does decrease my attack and defense. We're still in relatively good shape as I decide to go for another superpower to take down Vigoroth, and last up is a Lanoon. My defense is still relatively high, even though we are at low HP. He wasn't able to take me down because of my good defense, and I'm able to finish off Lanoon with one more superpower, defeating Norman only after about 10-15 attempts. I did this part live, by the way, guys, so if you are interested in joining the live streams, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you are notified when I am live, because I honestly have no set schedule. I just do it at random times. After defeating Norman, you do get the HM4 Surf, which allows you to access the abandoned ship, which does have the TM for Ice Beam, which is a big improvement from Icy Wind. This only took a few minutes of our time, but I definitely think it's worth it. Next up is the Weather Institute, and I never had an issue here, so I definitely didn't think I was going to have one, especially since I am at level 37 and I have Ice Beam now. I'm literally able to take down a Carvana with a resisted Ice Beam, and that means Mightyena is definitely going to go down as well. We definitely are on track to beat Jirachi and Regirock's time. I also get a cast form for free and name it Subscribe because I can't spell. Maybe that could be our new inside joke. Just saying subscribe instead of subscribe. That'd be pretty funny. Anyway, next up is May. Normally, I would say we'd have to watch out for Combustion, but I think we're at that level now where we don't really have to worry about it. I end up going for an Ice Beam, and then Pelipper goes for a Protect, but then I go for another Ice Beam to take it out. Next up is her Combustion at level 31. Now, this thing does have Double Kick, which can do some damage to me. Ice Beam resisted does a lot, but for some reason, it goes for Bulk Up, and I'm not complaining, so I take it out with another Ice Beam. And last but not least is Lombre at level 29. I get hit with a Fake Out, which only does 4 damage, and then I get hit with a Swift here, but I return with an Ice Beam to take it out, and only 1 hit, defeating May relatively easy. Next up is Winona, the Flying type gym leader. Now normally I would be freaking out about Winona because she does have Skarmory, and normally I don't have moves that would do much damage to Skarmory, but we have a Regice with a really good special attack, and I'm pretty sure Ice Beam is going to sweep her entire team. Winona leads off with a level 29 Swablu, and of course I end up going for an Ice Beam here for a one-hit KO. Next up is a Skarmory at level 31, and surprisingly enough, an Ice Beam's actually almost able to one-shot. As it gets healed up with a Hyper Potion, I use another Ice Beam to take it back down. Now that Skarmory's out of the way, next up is a Tropius who is 4 times weak to ice, so of course it's not going to survive an Ice Beam, and most of her team is already down at this point. Next up is Pelipper at level 30, and I end up going for an Ice Beam, and it is enough for a one-shot KO as well. And last up is Altaria, who is 4 times weak to ice, and obviously goes down to 1 Ice Beam. And just like I predicted, I was able to sweep her entire team with just Ice Beam, probably the easiest gym battle I've done in a very long time. Next I make my way to the top of Mount Pyre, where Archie accidentally drops the Magma Emblem, and that way I will be able to access the Magma Hideout, where we'll have to fight Maxie. Maxie leads off with a level 69 Mightyena, and I decided to go for an Ice Beam here, and it actually is enough to take it out. Next up is a Camerupt at level 39, and I decided to go for an Ice Beam here, and it does do a lot of damage, and it hits me with a Rock Slide, which is super effective, and it actually does do a little bit of damage as I use an Agent Power to try to finish it off. It gets healed up with another Super Potion, and I just decided to go for Super Power to take it out. And last up is a Crowbat, who obviously cannot survive a super effective Ice Beam. Its wing attack actually does do a lot of damage, but obviously it wasn't enough, and we were able to take out Maxie relatively easy. Next up is Team Aqua Admin Matt. Now, like always, he's a complete pushover, and I have no idea why the game developers made him absolutely pathetic this far in the game. But with him out of the way, next up is Tate and Liza, and we all know this is gonna be rough. Tate and Liza both have really strong Pokemon that are able to do a lot of damage to Regice, especially since I'm only at level 46, and obviously we cannot have another Pokemon to help us out. So if we beat them at this level, we're definitely gonna have a lot of luck involved. And finally, after a lot of attempts, I did get a run where I finally got enough luck in order to beat them. I have to take out the Claydol first because it has Earthquake and it does a lot of damage. Then I decided to target the Registeel. Wait, what? I meant to say I targeted the Registeel. Wait, what? I targeted the Lunatone and Solrock. I don't know why Registeel came in my mind. But after Zoc2 attacked me, I was left with literally just a sliver of HP left, and I did knock Zoc2 into the red, where Tate and Liza decided to use Hyper Potions just to make me mad. Luckily for me, since Ice Beam always does enough to bring Zoc2 into the red, which in turn makes them use a Hyper Potion on their Pokemon, that means I'm actually able to get a chance to either freeze or crit, which will help me win this attempt. If I don't get a critical hit or a freeze with Ice Beam and Zoc2 remains frozen, that just means I lose because then he'll take me out with the Psychic. Luckily for me, Tate and Liza haven't used any potions until this point, so that means they're going to use literally all their Hyper Potions on Zoc2. And finally, to my luck, I actually ended up getting a freeze on the very last attempt. I had to actually either crit or freeze, and it remains frozen, and I finish it off with one last Ice Beam. I freaked out when this happened because literally I thought I was going to have to reset. This is literally the closest I've ever gotten in this battle, and once again, I did win on luck, but I'll take it any day. The in-game time is at 7 hours and 50 minutes, so we're actually doing really good. Next, I have to take down Team Magma one last time for this run. Obviously, I do have Steven to help me in this battle, and because of that, I was able to win very first attempt pretty easily. And finally, we defeated Team Magma for the very last time, hopefully for a while. On my way to stop Team Aqua, I actually run into the elusive Tentacool at level 2,200,022, but luckily, after a couple thousand balls, I eventually do catch it. Of course, it did let me catch it because Tentacool is actually impossible to catch normally because it is better than Arceus. It's now time to take down Archie for the very last time for this run at least. Mightyena goes down with 1 Ice Beam, Crowbat goes down with 1 Ice Beam, and Sharpedo takes a lot of damage from Ice Beam, and eventually it does go down after I just continue to spam Ice Beam. Pretty OP if you ask me. Somebody in the comments last video asked me nicely to stop making fun of the Screen Noodle, but I absolutely refuse. It's stupid and I don't like it. It's literally a pool noodle who could fly. And now, it's finally time for the 8th and final gym leader. In-game time is at 9 hours and 13 minutes at this point, so that's pretty good. Juan leads off with a level 41 Love Disc, and I decided to set up a few curses here and then go for an Agent Power because I didn't want to waste my Ice Beam PP, even though it wouldn't do too much. I know it's going to do some decent damage to his Dragonair and Whiscash, actually. Wait, never mind, he used Amnesia. Okay. I switched it up and decided to go for an Agent Power, and it actually does do some good damage, but I decided to finish him off with 1 more Ice Beam because I know it'll do enough. Next up is Celio at level 43, and I end up hitting myself in confusion after trying to go for an Agent Power after getting hit with a Water Pulse. Luckily, I end up connecting, and I actually get the stat boost, which is pretty nice. Next out is a Crawdon at level 43. Now, this thing can do some damage, but it actually ends up missing its Crab Hammer, which is pretty funny, and I take it down with a Superpower. And last up is a Kingdra. Now, this thing is part Dragon, so I decided to go for an Ice Beam here, and I am confused, and he used Double Team, but I still end up hitting, and I get get the freeze, which is just good for us, I guess. He gets healed up once again with another hyper potion, but I had to go for an ice beam once again, and this time it is a critical hit while he was frozen. That was a little bit of overkill, but I'll take it like I always do. That was also my first attempt, so that was definitely nice. And with Juan out of the way, next up is Victory Road, and the only trainer we really have to worry about there is Wally, and even then, I don't think he's gonna cause much of an issue. Wally leads off with a level 44 Altaria, and I decided to go for an ice beam here for a one-hit KO. Next up's a Delcatty, who also gets one-hit KO'd by ice beam, which is definitely nice. And next out is Magneton, who actually survives the superpower. I tried to take it down with an agent power here, but it got healed up as I take it down with a couple more ice beams. Roselia goes down to an ice beam, and Gardevoir goes down to a couple ice beams as well, and just like I thought, he got completely obliterated. If we don't have any issues from this point forward, it looks like we are going to beat Jirachi and Regirock's time, which is surprising because I never thought Regice would be that good. And finally, I arrive at the Elite Four, which I mean, I really don't know how this is going to go, to be honest with you. I do waste a couple minutes by going to get rest. I could have picked this up earlier, but rest is definitely going to be crucial if we're going to get past the Elite Four at this level. I end up forgetting Superpower only because it has 5 PP. Haha, I said PP, make funny comments, it's good for the algorithm. Sydney did take a few attempts, but eventually I did figure out how to beat him exactly, which includes setting up 6 curses. Now that all my curses are set up, I decided to go for a rest here to get my HP back, and then I decided to spam an Ice Beam, and then I decided to use Ice Beam again, and then I went for another Ice Beam, and then I went for another Ice Beam, and then I went for another Ice Beam, and then I used yeah, you get it. So I defeated Sydney without using Ice Beam, which is really dope. Next up is Phoebe. Now, honestly, I don't know if I have the PP to actually beat her because all my moves are really low on PP and the rules are no items in battle, so I can't just shove a Lepa Berry on Regice. The fact that her Pokemon had pressure too definitely didn't help, but after a while, I actually did figure out how to beat her. I take down the very first Dusclops with a couple of Ice Beams. Next up is a Dusclops at level 51, and I decided to set up some curses here so I could use Agent Power and actually do some damage. Agent Power only has 5 PP, but if we do have 6 curses set up, it should do enough damage to take out some— oh, I'm out of PP, great. So this actually happened a ton, but I eventually figured out you're actually able to beat Phoebe if you run yourself out of PP and win with struggle. Please don't ask me how many attempts this took for me to actually figure out and actually pull off, but eventually I am able to use rest and run myself out of PP, and because I set up all those curses, it actually does enough to take them out. And of course, I did have some PP restoring items. I obviously wouldn't have done that if I didn't have any. And then again, with this moveset, it doesn't look like I really had a choice. Glacia only took me 2 attempts because I knew if I set up 6 curses, my defense and attack would obviously be maxed out, and Agent Power is super effective, and obviously that would be enough to take down most of her Pokemon. Did run out of PP for Agent Power on the last Glalie, but I decided to finish it off with Ice Beam, which surprisingly worked. Next up is Drake, and obviously I don't think we'll have an issue because of Ice Beam, but we'll see. And just like Glacia, this only took me 2 attempts. I set up a curse here just to stall off the Shogun because I knew it wanted to go for a Protect here, but as soon as I actually connected with my Ice Beams, I was able to sweep his entire team. No surprise at all. But let's be honest, none of us were actually worried about Drake. Next up is the champion who uses water types, and honestly, I don't really have a plan to beat him. And eventually, after tons and tons and tons of attempts, I figured out with this moveset, I actually wasn't going to get very far. What I needed was a move that was physical that didn't have 5 PP because I set up my curses, but I just ran out of Agent Power PP, and Ice Beam is special, so that wasn't gonna help. And while looking through my bag, I found it. The TM for Earthquake, which is definitely exactly what I was looking for, actually. I end up replacing Agent Power for Earthquake because Earthquake does more damage, and even though Agent Power does have that 10% chance for all the stat boost, it's really not worth it because of the PP. If this doesn't work, nothing's going to work. Wailord can be dangerous because of Water Spout here, so I only get a couple curses set up before I have to go for rest because I was left with only 9 HP, but eventually I do wake back up and set up the rest of my curses. I was debating on what to go for here, but eventually I decided to go for rest, which looking back on it is the smart play because as soon as I wake up, I was able to take down the Wailord and the Tentacruel with Earthquake. Next out is Ludicolo, and I decided to go for a couple Ice Beams here to take it out. Next out's a Whiscash, so I decided to go for rest here because that Toxic was really doing a lot of damage. And once I wake up and go for Earthquake, it does the perfect amount of damage and gets the champion to waste a ton of healing items. Now I obviously can't hit Gyarados with Earthquake here, so I end up going for Ice Beam, and luckily I get a crit to take it out. And last up is a Melodic at level 58 who ends up going for Toxic. Luckily my Earthquake is just way too strong as I bring it into the red and hits me with one final surf as I take it out with one last Earthquake, and I finally defeated Pokemon Emerald with only a Regice, but the question is, how fast did I do it? So I completed Pokemon Emerald with only a Regice in 11 hours and 36 minutes. Well, okay, that's number 1 so far. That easily beats Jirachi and Regirock's time. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and next week I will be coming out with a Pokemon Emerald Kaizo Nuzlocke, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching like always, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, guys. Thanks for watching.